Hello, everyone. Welcome to another preview edition of AEW Dynamite here on the PW Torch YouTube page. I'm your host, Tyler Sage at Ring of Tyler. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. And let's preview Dynamite. Very excited tonight. Just so you all know, I'll be here, obviously. I'll be doing my live written report opposite of Wade on pwtorch.com tonight. And good to see that Wade got a scoop on everybody today, so that was exciting to see. So, and I'll be joining him tonight as I slap my mic on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling show post show. So, talking about Dynamite. So, a full evening of Dynamite for yours truly. I'm excited to share it with you as well tonight. But I was, I made a typo. What was my typo there? I'll edit that at the back end. If you're watching this post live, we're that connected with the community. We'll make live edits on our titles as we try and get content up on the show as quickly as possible. So, anyway, until we do that, let's get into the show. I was very down on last week's episode for a myriad of reasons. I think those were well established in either my report or with Zach on Fireside Chat last Thursday. So, if you want to litigate those yourself, you can go back and check out that stuff. But, here tonight, I think the lineup is good. Yes, we will hear from Tony Khan. Okay, cool. I'll change that. Thank you, son. Can't get too clickbaity here. We try and be above that. So I appreciate your comment there. I will change that. So, but let's get into tonight's show and let us get into it. So let's start with the main event, right? If you're watching this not live, then starting right off strong, and that's obviously going to be Sammy Guevara taking on Darby Allin for the chance to take on MJF at Double or Nothing. A lot of intrigue here, obviously added with the addition of MJF giving Sammy a blank check and him screwing over Jungle Boy, MJF that is, and helping Sammy win, and them hugging and celebrating, etc. So a lot of ways to go here. Obviously, they kind of played up the discontent that Sammy had for MJF back in the day as part of the Inner Circle. And feels like a lifetime ago that the Inner Circle was a thing. But, what happens there, I think we can all agree that we all think Darby is going to win this. So how does he... or that. I think I'll put your thing up here, Hazan. So, yeah, or Sammy wins and makes it a four-way because MJF and Sammy cheat, and that's a good way to get to that as well. So that would be interesting. I would be pro that if it's done correctly. That has not maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe you've changed my opinion here, but let's go with my initial take here. And as always, I'm going to always put on the table that I'm very likely to be wrong and all this stuff. So, yeah, if MJF helps Sammy win, even in that capacity, that's the what you just said there, Hazan, is the other thing to happen. But maybe that blank check is void at a certain date, and Sammy gets mad, and then him and Darby and Jungle Boy petition or whatever. There's something to happen there. That would be like kind of the not as exciting, kind of the lame way to go about it. I think, TK just making it a four-way afterwards makes a lot more sense and would make me feel better. So, actually, I'm going to go with that. That's what I think is going to happen. I think MJF will cheat and screw over Darby and Jungle Boy, and we'll get a four-way at the pay-per-view, which I don't think people will love, but I think this BCC elite stuff has the potential to main event anyway. So is a four-way the proper way to have a world title match if it's not going to be the main event? I think that actually is pretty justified. But Sammy and Darby should have a pretty good match until we get to the shenanigans at whatever point. Do we see MJF before at all on the show? It just depends how much they want to make that interaction feel surprising or dastardly, right? If we don't hear from MJF, if the announced team does not bring up the coalition that he has with Sammy, which doesn't make much sense on paper for how much time that got last week, but with AEW, hey, it might be something totally changed and not delved into. But assume that the announce team is going to bring that up a lot during the show. That where's MJF? Is he going to come in and help screw over Darby like he screwed over Jungle Boy last week, etc.? So a lot of intrigue around that. I think last week's episode was built, the opening segment, the closing segment, and the segments throughout, obviously, that we talked about last week was a strong point of the show. Having the world title be one coherent story and through line throughout the show, I like. So hopefully we can do the same thing there. We can have some, maybe not exactly the same, but if we don't have an opening segment that ties to this match, I would like it to be, highlighted at the top of the show and then have segments throughout the show to kind of build the intrigue of, is MJF going to screw over Darby? Is Sting going to be out there to help him, even the odds, etc.? All that being discussed and give you kind of the lay of the land, I think would be good for the show to project in that matter. But Zahn has changed my mind. I'm going to go Sammy winning through cheating, and then we'll see what happens after that. But that's my pick for the main event. We also have two titles on the line tonight. It's been a week since Orange Cassidy defended on Dynamite, so he's taking on Bandito, which should be a fun match. I'm interested to see how it's worked. I mean, Orange Cassidy obviously has been on a great run here of late. And Zach, how are you? Good to see you. And he has a very similar style of match throughout this run of, even for the first couple minutes, seconds, whatever, and then getting beat down for majority, getting that babyface comeback, etc. So, Bandito has similar matches where he's in the Orange Cassidy role. And, is that what happens here? Or as Azam points out, is does he work heel in the match, win the match, and turn heel and join LFI? I mean, I think that'd be interesting if we're going to tie that to some Forbidden Door stuff, as the Japan version of LFI has dwindled recently with Sonata leaving and Evil not being there for a while. So would that be a team up at Forbidden Door and Bandito getting a title here? Does that legitimize him? Have a similar run that Orange Cassidy is? Now I think whoever has the title after Orange Cassidy is not going to have a similar run with this sort of belt. This is probably the high water mark in the history of this belt. And I would probably put good money on that for the life of this belt, however long that is or isn't. That Orange Cassidy is going to have the best run with it. So him losing it to Bandito, I think, him losing it at any point is on the table. And Bandito is a guy who, if you want to activate, I think you can. He's more than what Commander has shown, who's like, got great spots, but I think is that he's that luchador on the roster that loses more often than not. And I think Bandito is, not to get like low hanging fruit here, but he could be your Rey Mysterio, right? The charismatic babyface luchador who can work different styles and not just do a couple signature spots. And him as a heel is interesting. If it would give him some personality, which he has not gotten yet in AEW, I'm all for that. So I think that would be intriguing. But I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy winning tonight. But I think Bandito winning, turning heel, joining Los Ingobernables de Mexico would not be a bad idea. So we will see what happens there as I showed through always the pronunciation of LFI. So our other title match tonight is 6 weeks in the making, whenever they were in Canada. We've got Jade Cargill defending the TBS title against Taya Valkyrie. So, this is the first time in months. I mean, what was the last legitimate opponent that Jade had? It's pre-Bow Wow popping on screen and then that disappearing because it was so bad. So, I'm struggling to think what it is right now. But is it beating Ruby for that title? I mean, I don't know, maybe. But we'll see. But I think, Jade versus a person of some note is good. And yes, there has been a real story there. And I'm pro that. And I'm pro this getting a spotlight and having a, 12-minute match as you would expect Team Bandito to have tonight. It's been on Rampage as if you can see in the comments if you're watching live or not. Azan is pointing out there. And yeah, I mean, you guys are Zach and Azan are on the hot takes tonight with Zach's got Taya Valkyrie winning, joining the Outcast. That would make sense. Put 4 in that group. You go from there. You have to think if Thunder Rosa is coming back at any point, it would seem that she would join the Outcast as the insider who is turned. I think that'd be very juicy. That seems to be what they're setting up through the All Access show. If you can take some sort of shoot work action on that. But, I would have liked, if Taya is going to win this, I would have liked Jade and her to have a story on Dynamite where, we haven't seen Jade on Dynamite television for a long time. And yeah, as we all know, it's about double the audience of Rampage. So her appearing and losing here feels, like not the best use of that win streak that they are not getting a lot out of currently as it is. But, I think it's going to be better for Jade in the long run when she does lose that, and kind of be in the regular division and not have this always be a weird thing where she's got to take on people outside the top of the division, and she can be utilized, even if she's not going to be a long-term big-time star, if that's not what Tony Khan or company think of her, you can at least get a couple of big matches out of her, I would think, at this point, and if you push her. So I think she still retains tonight. I think Bandito winning is more likely than Taya, but I think Taya can do everything, joining the Outcasts, or win it again later down the road, and Jade can still retain tonight, and that could be something that happens at a pay-per-view. If you're not going to have a ton of title changes, you would think FTR, you would think MJF, you would think Wardlow if that is defended on that show. There's a million other titles, but you think you need some titles to change. Does Jamie Hayter lose it? Probably not. So Jade losing at the pay-per-view could be a big title change that would kind of suffice the need for some differences going on that show. So something to look out for. But I think, Bandito, Orange Cassidy, and Jade and Taya are both more of coin flip matches than Dynamite typically has. And as is the thing with Sammy and Darby, right? These three matches is not like 100% lock. What's going to happen when you turn on Dynamite tonight. I think that is strong and that is good. And I'm excited for that. I mean, maybe you get 1 out of 6 matches are like that on Dynamite on average. Maybe. It's probably half a match weekly that you don't know the results to before it starts if you watch the show regularly. So having 2.5, let's say, matches on this card where I don't exactly know who's going to win, I think is pretty exciting. So that's a big thumbs up for me in the preview aspect of it. And there it is. So we have 2 other matches announced. We've got Dax Harwood taking on Double J, Jeff Jarrett. So is that leading to, a tag match between them and Jay Lethal? They teamed up on Rampage, and then obviously now they're wrestling. So that feels like an interlude. Maybe that happens next week to give FTR a defense going into the pay-per-view to make the chance for them to lose more likely since they've defended the title once already. That makes a lot of sense to me. So that's fine. But Dax, overcoming the odds, beating Jeff Jarrett is always going to be a big thumbs up for a live crowd. And that's the perfect use of a Jeff Jarrett on screen. So I'm pro that on paper. So we'll see what happens if I'm pro that after it happens. So then we also have got Butcher and Blade taking on Kenny Omega and Takeshita. So, again, get Omega, Takeshita in the ring together, teaming. He's now part of the Elite in the storyline with Blackpool Combat Club. Get him a win over Butcher and Blade. I would lean towards, yeah, I mean, I got popped that up there. Hazanu, the top hot take artist today. But yeah, that would make the story more likely that they're going to wrestle at the pay-per-view if you're going to do that, if you're going to have Jeff Jarrett win. And then, I think that's fraught for a number of reasons. I don't think that's a great match for the pay-per-view is my number one, critical analysis of it. And then my personal criticism of that is that just I think it helps to bolster the narrative that Jeff Jarrett has the ear of Tony Khan and can get big wins like that by, whispering in that ear. And that's not a good look for Tony Khan with everything else going on. So that's my opinion. So, but yeah, I think on the previous match, Omega, Takeshita get a win and, just them working together, make it feel like Takeshita's more part of the Elite. I like the booking there. Do we see Adam Page tonight? Maybe. I mean, he's working on the extension. We've heard that reported. Who's the 5th member then for Blackpool Combat Club? Because if Hangman comes in here, that is what it is. If he's not here tonight or next week, I would say is like my limit. I think we do not see him until the pay-per-view itself, and maybe he literally rides out on a white horse and saves the day and helps the Elite get the win over Blackpool Combat Club. And is the number one guy in that group as a result of that, or is, a co-headliner with Kenny. They're standing there strong together at the end. He sets up, Kenny for the one-winged angel, and they ride off in the sunset, metaphorically and maybe realistically. So that is something to look out for, but I think it's a good thing to remind us that Hangman is still not part of this for some reason, storyline-wise, and looking out for that is important. So we also have 3 segments of talking that have been announced per the AEW Twitter graphic that they always put out. It says that we will have a message from Tony Khan, I believe is the correct nomenclature. We will hear from Tony Khan. So what is that? Is that in relation to something that happens like after the main event? You would presume that's a message that gets, fed to Tony Schiavone's ear, and he is the conduit for Tony Khan. So, not a huge announcement of XYZ, but, we'll see what that is. Is that the announcement of the Saturday show? I don't know. That feels more like a major announcement than we'll hear from Tony Khan. So, I'm not going to guess what it is, because that usually does not go well for me or anyone from a happiness standpoint. So we also will hear from Adam Cole. You would then presume that we will hear from Chris Jericho, or at least someone from JAS. So we will see. But yeah, Zach popping in here. It's about the Pillar story. Yeah, I mean, Nate Clear and Rampage. I didn't watch Rampage, if you can tell. So I'm always honest with you guys. So we'll hear from him about that. So thank you for that note. We will also hear from Adam Cole, like I said. So you think him and Chris Jericho have a talking segment. Very good. And then we hear from Wardlow and Arn Anderson. So we'll see what is in the future for him. Presumably a Luchasaurus Christian. So 2 major talking segments with Cole, Jericho, Arn Anderson, Christian Cage being the mouthpieces, respectively, for all sides in those 2. So those feel like good time fillers. And there's only 5 matches announced. Typically, there's 6 on Dynamite, as you probably know. So we'll see if we get a squash match added, maybe a Luchasaurus squash match, or Wardlow squashing somebody, because we know we need that to reestablish that character. And then the and then the announcement from Wardlow and Arn Anderson. So that's what we got there. Obviously, seen a lot of stories today, Wade being the main breaker of the story. So please check out pwtorch.com. Go VIP if you haven't, to get all the news on the backstage meeting, all that sort of stuff between Jericho, Tony Khan, Phil Brooks, and I'll be on tonight with Wade on the post show. So the Glock Anderson, it is Glock Anderson. Never forget. Please check that out if you've not ever listened to those. It's the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling post show, and Wade always, if you want to call in, Wade always sends that. I think I'll probably be answering email from Zach, and Zahn, you may or may not call. You sometimes do. So hope to hear from both of you if you are wanting to reach out. And everyone else, thank you for watching live or not live for this preview on a Dynamite that I think will be significantly better than last week, as we are now officially on the road to Double or Nothing, as we're a little more than a month out from that show. So thank you all for joining, and I will talk to you and